following program contains language and situations of an adult nature. Some material may not be appropriate for young listeners. If any adolescent ears are caught hearing this broadcast, they will be swiftly removed from the head they are attached to and directly mailed to their parents. Do not ask who we are. Just accept that we are always watching. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
I mean, innuendos have kind of gotten out of hand nowadays anyway. I could say anything, like, I'm going to fold the laundry, and people would think I was making some kind of sexual reference.
Are you going to fold the laundry?
I mean, maybe once this is over.
It's time for Terribly Entitled Talks with Dave Capdeville. That's a title! That's a terrible title, but the talks are killer. They're killer! If you don't like sarcastic humor, you should probably go. Get out of here! But if you're starved for entertainment, Dave's gonna serve it to you. Oh! Yeah! Terribly Entitled Talks with Dave Capdeville. That's what it's called.
Good whatever time you're listening to this, folks. My name is Dave Capdeville, and welcome back to my show, Terribly Titled Talks. Now, before we begin with the program, there is an issue that I need to address. They have informed me that apparently I have not been giving enough attention to my target audience. Now, I had no idea about this, but they know best, so apparently my target audience are human beings and not squids. So, I have a mandate here that says I need to start putting in more human references in the show from now on, so expect a lot of those going forward. Now, my guest tonight is an animator, screenwriter, and voice actor, best known for creating my favorite cartoon, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, as well as working on countless other shows like Bunnicula, Fish Hooks, and his personal project, Dead Meat. So, without further ado, please give a very human-like, not squid-like, welcome to Mr. Maxwell Atoms. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going all right. I mean, it's 2020. How are you?
Pretty good, is what I would say if I wasn't lying through my teeth.
I'm decidedly mediocre.
Mediocre? I'd say decent. I would label decent as the adjective for all of 2020.
Can we bust it back down to dece so I don't have to say two syllables? That feels 2020 as well.
Let's mail out a letter and call it sent.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
So, lots to go over, but I had the privilege to become your friend this was a year ago, actually.
It seems like everything else in 2020, it's either 20 years ago or 15 minutes ago.
For real, time has been at a standstill. But you were nice enough to invite me on to help you out with your Dead Meat project, which, thank you very much.
Well, and you were nice enough to work on it, so call it even.
Yeah. But I just want to kind of, start off because, I've said many times publicly and to you as well that Billy and Mandy was my favorite cartoon as a kid, and it's had a huge influence on me. So I've always been very interested in your creative process. So when it came to something like Dead Meat that you had total creative control over, how long did the scripting process take for it?
To actually write it?
Yeah.
Not terribly long. Maybe I did it over the course of a month. Yeah, the first draft anyway. I picked at that thing for the better part of a decade, I guess. I kept trying to keep it current with the times, so every couple of years I'd go in and be like, oh, that's an old joke.
Yeah, that's the problem is the world constantly changes on the flip of a dime.
Yeah, the risks of trying to, well, really that's a thing with animation too, is trying to do anything that's satire in a process that moves so slowly is fairly risky.
Right, just because the process of animation takes so much longer and can be so meticulous. But yeah, as far as my involvement with Dead Meat, you let me come on and do some of the practical effects stuff for that, which is one of my favorite things to do. Just spray fake blood all over people.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, like I was saying before, when you called me earlier, I was looking at the blood of Jane Carr, a.k.a. Puddin', where you blew the back of her head off at the end of last year. Still up there.
You're welcome for the free paint job.
Yes.
I remember as well, in preparation for another scene in which a certain character, their chest completely explodes from a gunshot.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the preparations for that because we just coated your entire living room in garbage bags.
And it's still got everywhere. I still find blood occasionally. There was some on the edge of my counter the other day. I was like, oh.
And because I know I tried to mix it with a formula that I'm like, okay, this won't stain anything.
It does clean off very nicely, thank you.
Okay, but I just want to make sure. But still, it looked like if somebody had walked in and not known what we were doing, it would have been like, oh, it's the American Psycho scene all over again.
Hey, Paul! Ah!
But that was, I mean, man, stuff like that is my favorite thing to do. Just like an Evil Dead 2 gag where it's too much, but that's the fun of it. I don't know, practical effects. I mean, I know because you are just like me, where you are just like a child of like horror and spooky stuff. And for me, like the quintessential part of that is like 80s practical effects and monsters and stuff. Like that's my obsession. When you were first starting off with stuff like Billy and Mandy back in the day, like when you got the opportunity to make that show, was it like at the front of your mind to be like, well, I'm going to take all this stuff that like quote unquote traumatized me as a child from movies and stuff and kind of put it into that?
Yeah, absolutely. That was sort of the whole point, I guess. I just wanted to take all this stuff that scared the crap out of me and make fun of it, but also kind of legitimately share it with other people as well.
Yeah, because a lot of those influences too are very like cult horror based as well. Like they're, you know, characters inspired by Hellraiser or Evil Dead or etc. And it's fun for me because like when I watched your show as I was younger, because it was my favorite cartoon. Obviously, I didn't know when I was a kid what those references were. Like I didn't know like Hostel Gato was like a combination of Ash Williams and Snake Plissken. And now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, that's so fucking cool. Because like anybody who knows me knows that Bruce Campbell is like my god. So that's why, like, I think if I remember correctly, like when I came to your house, one of the first things I did was thank you for making Hostel Gato.
Oh, maybe.
But yeah, so like when you were younger at that age and you were kind of absorbing all this media, how did it affect you in that way? Were you more like, did you find yourself more entertained by like, you know, like I'm sure because you watched like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and Evil Dead, like were you more entertained or were you more just like not traumatized? I made that joke earlier, but like
I think I kind of was traumatized. Like I think I was just a really sensitive kid. Some of my favorite movies when I was I guess a preteen were like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Clash of the Titans, and there were sections of those movies that I wouldn't watch just because I knew that, you know, Medusa was going to get her head cut off and I didn't think I could handle it, and I knew that that something bad happened to the bad guys at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark that my parents thought I wasn't going to like, so I just became like really worried about it.
Yeah.
And it was actually a long, long time before I think it was actually RoboCop, as late in the game as that was, that really triggered me that R-rated movies can be awesome. And from there, it was just like a stack of dominoes, and I would watch anything and everything.
For me, it was 2 movies. It was when I was 10 years old, my dad got me Terminator for Christmas, and my mom was mad about that, let me tell you.
It's a great Christmas movie.
Oh, yeah, classic tidings from Arnold Schwarzenegger. My mom was pissed. She was like, he should not be watching that. And my dad was like, he needs to watch this. And so I watched it with my dad, and I thought it was the coolest thing, but I was also like, my brain didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
Because I've said this before, but like, as somebody who is, you know, I'm known for being so in tune with content around like horror and Halloween and monster stuff, I was the biggest wimp as a kid. Like I would not even walk into Party City with my dad at Halloween time because I was scared of the skeleton out front.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way.
Yeah, like I had to stay out front and just wait there while my dad got like my Power Rangers costume.
I remember I cried so badly during the Chud movie trailer commercial that my parents came in. And they were really concerned, and they made me watch it like 4 times just so I could understand that it wasn't real. And I just kept crying and crying. And it was Chud. I eventually saw that like 2 years ago. Amazing. Just in that it's so not horrifying, and the monster is just like this bad puppet.
And tomorrow, the only things living in the city of New York will be Chud. Chud. Cannibalistic, humanoid, underground dwellers. Chud. They're not staying down there anymore.
They had one puppet as well.
Yeah.
It's so obvious that they did, and it just gets its head cut off by a sword.
Yeah.
Chud is something. If you want to see the origins of Home Alone, watch Chud. But yeah, as a kid, I was always super sensitive to scary stuff. It really wasn't until I was 13 and my friend showed me Evil Dead 2.
Mm-hmm. That's a fantastic introduction, I think. I think if I had seen that, because I so love like slapstick and Warner Brothers cartoons and the Three Stooges, like if you had managed to like mesh that earlier in my life with ultra-violence, I think maybe I'd be a different person today. I don't know.
I think that's why out of the Evil Dead movies, Army of Darkness is the most popular, I would say.
Is it? I always feel like Evil Dead 2 is the...
Evil Dead 2 is the best, but Army of Darkness, whenever I mention Evil Dead, they're like, I've never seen those. I'm like, have you seen Army of Darkness? Like, oh yeah, I love that movie. Because that movie, if you look at the first Evil Dead and then Army of Darkness, you would not think that was the same franchise.
Mm-hmm.
It's so, I mean, and they're both great movies, but they're so far removed from each other. That's why Evil Dead 2 is the perfect kind of middle ground. Because when I was a kid and I saw that when I was 13, it was the first time I realized, one, this is so ridiculous, it's kind of silly. I can laugh at like all the scary things going on. And there was this guy, Ash, in it, who I was like, oh, somebody's actually fighting the evil. Like, maybe it's because I was a kid, but I was like, oh, this bumbling doofus is going to protect me from the demons, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I made my parents watch that movie when I was in college, and I don't think they appreciated it.
I made my dad watch Army of Darkness last year, because when I was home for Christmas, I had mentioned it. When Ash vs. Evil Dead, the Star series was on, my friends would come over and we would grab some drinks and we would watch it, the new episodes in the backyard. My dad was always kind of intrigued. It's not his thing, but he was like, oh, you know, my son likes it. Let me check this out. And I sent him Army of Darkness to watch on Prime. And I was just driving to work one day. I got a message from my dad that said, I watched that movie you told me about. I loved it. I have never been a more prouder son in my life than when my dad told me he loved Army of Darkness.
Awesome.
I think it's cool though when you have like that connection with your parents, because like for a lot of times, like I don't know how it was for you, but like I think it's just because like with the entertainment stuff, it's kind of hard to relate that to your parents.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever dealt with that, or have they always been kind of accepting of it?
Of what I'm into, or
no, not just what you're into, but also like your job. Like, has it ever been like harder to explain to them?
No, I think they get it. I don't think they were always 100% on board with it as a career choice. But they did a good job of faking it, and I didn't know that for a long time.
I mean, inherently, good parents want what's best for you. They just want a foundation, I guess. And like,
yeah.
Art is a risky thing just in general, not just like drawing art, but like just creative stuff in general. Like
definitely not very stable most of the time.
No, unfortunately not. I mean, I talked about this briefly last episode with Devin Townsend, but it's weird how like nowadays with a lot of creatives, people don't want to be famous anymore. They just want to be stable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
Because we're in an industry that is just like, oh, I just want enough to be able to do this and get by. I don't need to swim in a Scrooge McDuck cesspit full of money, and I definitely don't need my face on the tabloids next to the bubblegum of the grocery store. You just want to be able to make enough to do what you love as your 9 to 5.
Sure. No, I was just going to say, I guess that's always been my dream.
Yeah, no, it's the same with me. Though you've had, like, definitely had some success with it. I mean, like, you had an incredible run with Billy and Mandy and Evil Con Carne.
Oh, yeah, sure. But definitely, like, to have stability on top of that would be incredible.
Oh, sure. Is it pretty easy for you to, I mean, not counting this year, obviously, because it's not easy for anybody to find work, but just in general, because of your past work, is it a lot easier for you to find kind of stable work?
I'm not worried about it right now. Maybe I should be. I am unemployed right now, but yeah, I feel like I've got enough experience. I'm going to be useful to somebody, so I'm not that concerned yet.
Just as long as we're all back out there before the well dries up. Oh, nervous laughter.
Ha! Yeah! Kill me!
But I wanted to say that in preparation for this podcast, even though I've known you for a while, I decided to go back and rewatch the movie Billy and Mandy's Big Boogie Adventure.
Oh, yeah?
I just want to tell you honestly, in front of all 3 of these people listening, that thing holds up incredibly well.
There are people listening?
Yeah, I know. I thought it was only squids listening, but apparently my audience is made of humans, so we have to adjust accordingly.
Well, no, thank you.
No, I genuinely mean it. Like, the songs are fun, the story is intriguing. It's just a really good expansion on the show you created. Do you feel like, in hindsight, that was the most fun you had working on the show, or was there another particular episode you thought was the most fun?
I mean, that was definitely kind of a high point in that, we'd been wanting to do something, I guess, bigger for years. And, we had the occasional special here and there, but that was sort of our big... I guess that was kind of our moment, because Fred Fredberger kind of hit big at that same point, so we were getting noticed from him. And
Around like the yogurt episode is when it kind of took off.
it was that very first one, the courtroom one.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
And I think it wasn't just that; it was just that season. I think honestly, it was because we had struggled for so long, and we would get these like nothing pickups of like 6 episodes, and then get canceled, and then get 6 or 7 more episodes, and then get canceled. So shocker! Finally, when you get some steam behind you, you start putting out good stuff.
I don't know how much you can disclose about this, but how difficult was it to fight a process where you basically make a season, get canceled, then all of a sudden they're like, we're going to pick you up again? I imagine after a while that process got real aggravating.
It was just all about ratings at that point, so I didn't really have any say. They would just be like, well, and they wouldn't say cancel. They would just be like, well, yeah, we don't know if you're going to get a pickup, so I don't know. And then I'd be like, well, everybody's leaving, so I guess we're going to have a wrap party? And they'd be like, okay, yeah, have a wrap party. And then we'd have a wrap party, and everyone would become unemployed, and it would just be me and like 2 other people dwindling away, and then they'd be like, oh, hey, you got a pickup. Go do more. And then I'd call everybody, and they'd be like, I already got a job. So it was just sort of that cycle for a while.
Well, at least you got a bunch of parties.
Yeah, it was cool. We had 3 wrap parties, I think.
Yeah, I guess the only quote-unquote wrap party I've ever been to is that after the screening for the Has Been Hotel pilot, we had a little party, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I guess 2 of our 3 wrap parties were just more
low-key.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I like anyway. I mean, I've never been a really big wild party guy. I just kind of like chill atmospheres with friends.
I kind of miss like the old school Hollywood wrap party. I just feel like it's so chintzy now. Like usually now it's like, here's $125, go to a hot dog stand kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, you can make that fun, though, with the right people.
Sure you can. But I just think, I don't know, the studios make so much money.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Throw $1,000 at a location and
get a decent DJ or a band, at least. Like
something like that.
Not like, oh, we got you this wedding band. They know how to play Mustang Sally for an hour and a half. Now, I know after Billy and Mandy ended, you kind of went into a transitional phase because the whole Underfist special happened.
Right.
Are you able to talk about at all, like, what happened with that? Because I know you said at one point you were going to try to make that into its own, like, spin-off, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, Billy and Mandy was doing very well around that time of Big Boogie. And I was actually sort of getting some heat from other portions of the entertainment industry. So I was excited about that. And Cartoon Network was like, well, hey, like, we still want to keep you. And, do you have anything else? So I pitched a sci-fi show about a robot and a space ape, I believe.
Okay.
And at the same time, I came up with Underfist just as sort of this dumb joke that I was going to do as like a one-off episode. And the more I thought about it, I was like, oh, this is actually kind of functional in a stupid way.
To take all the goofier side characters.
Yeah, so we made Underfist while the development was going on in the other thing. And at the very, very end of Underfist, you'll hear Billy say, all that work and nothing to show for it.
All that work and nothing to show for it.
And that's because by the time we hit post-production, like, we knew we were dead because I can't remember. I guess this was when, I don't know who bought who, but it was a regime change thing where just like one day everything was cool. And then the next day we got bought. And my boss was like, yeah, everything's going to be cool. You're going to like these people. It's great. And then within like 2 months, they were like, yeah, we don't like anything that's going on here, and this Billy and Mandy show is the problem with the network, so that's gone. And honestly, I didn't take it that personally because they did similar things to like Craig McCracken and Gendy Tartakovsky, and it was clear they were just sort of cleaning house.
Was this at the time when they started doing that weird like live action phase at Cartoon Network?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, basically everybody was gone. Not everybody, but there were very, very few holdovers.
Does that Andrew WK promo, does that have a little bit of a sting in hindsight?
I mean, we all laughed about that when it was happening.
Yeah. I mean, Andrew WK is a cool dude. He just made money from that, but I'm like,
It was a weird choice.
Yeah, it really was. I'm glad he's at least working with people like Necrogoblicon now, and that didn't completely destroy his career. But yeah, so that whole period completely changed the entire network at that point, so...
Yeah, they went through sort of I can't even really say pendulum swing. They were just all over the place with what they wanted to do, and then they settled on live action, which I guess didn't work out. I was long gone by then.
Yeah, I don't know, just a studio called Cartoon Network.
Yeah, well, there was talk at the time of changing it to Children's Network, and I was like, oof, that's not going to do what you want it to do.
Nope, bad call. Also, didn't Nickelodeon originally market themselves as, like, the kids network?
I think so.
Yeah, because they, like, originally, I remember back when Nickelodeon was first founded, their whole aesthetic was to make the network seem like it was being run by kids themselves, like in the promos and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So to be like, oh, let's copy our biggest rival, not a good idea.
That's the entertainment industry, though.
Because I know the CEO of Cartoon Network is listening to my podcast right now. Yeah, that's this grown man's 2 cents on a children's network.
Well, that all changed yesterday, so...
Yeah, there you go. But after that point, where did you go from there?
After that, I ended up at Disney producing a show called Fishhooks with a lot of the people that I worked at Cartoon Network with.
Oh, well, there you go. So did you feel more comfortable and at home because of that, or was it still jarring being in a whole new place?
It was cool and jarring at the same time. Like, it was cool to work for Disney because, I love cartoons. They make a lot of cartoons. You hear a lot of stuff about Disney being really kind of top heavy, and which is true. And I that was a very big change to me from Cartoon Network. Like, Cartoon Network, if you're getting not picked up every 6 episodes, like, clearly you're not terribly well liked. But I was also mostly left alone and given enough rope to entertainingly hang myself with to the tune of 76 half hours.
Yeah, because it definitely felt like, at least on Billy and Mandy, like, it felt like you had an incredible amount of freedom. I don't know if that's true or not, but just from a viewer standpoint, it felt like that.
Yeah, I think everyone was like, well, this thing's not going anywhere, so why bother giving it notes to death? And, we did have times where it wasn't like that, where one of my very good friends was my immediate boss, and he's always given fantastic notes and been very supportive. I don't want to make it seem like, we were completely on the outside, but...
Right.
Now I've forgotten the question.
I guess to reiterate, with Billy and Mandy, because you got good notes and you were mostly left alone because it was successful, did you try to push the show as far as you could go and kind of sneak things in over time? And was there a certain point where they were like, all right, hold on, you got to slow down?
Weirdly, no. And that's a question I get a lot.
Yeah.
But the stuff, like any of the dark stuff, like the Grim Reaper stuff or like the dark comedy, I think they just didn't know what to do with. So I almost got no notes at all on that. And most of the other stuff is like, even I'll say there's too many fart jokes in that show now, but like I wouldn't get notes on it. So that was sort of the shock, I guess, with the regime change, was just like I had almost a decade of people, not loving me, but also not telling me that I was doing anything terrible. And then the new regime comes in. They're just like, no, this is completely unacceptable. What the fuck's going on?
Lay down the hammer.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing you expected, when you put a lot of the dark stuff into the show, to get some kind of kickback from the network. But was it intentional to try to balance out all the goofy humor, like the fart jokes and the Billy gross out stuff, with the darker tone in order to kind of get away with it so it kind of juxtaposes out?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it was sort of like this half and half show for me, where half the episodes took place in the underworld and half took place in Billy and Mandy's world, and half the jokes are just really, really stupid, and get some horror in there to balance it out.
I mean, you definitely brought the horror stuff. Like, there's one moment that still sticks out to me that scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. And forgive me for forgetting the name of the episode, but it's the one where it ends with Nurgle kind of grabbing the audience member and turning them into one of his minions.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just how much that disturbed me as an adolescent. And then it cuts to the next episode, and it has Billy with Tangelos up his nose and on his head screaming about clowns. So now that I'm older and understand the writing process, it feels like to me you were trying to find the best way to balance that tone of dark and goofy so they would meld together in just the right way.
I think I do like to not necessarily sneak in horror stuff, but I like to give myself challenges. Like, I guess without saying the name of the project, I worked on something recently where I was like, can I do basically a children's cartoon that's sort of like, the end of Dead Alive with the lawnmower and all the zombie limbs, and just like sort of a splatter gore movie for kids?
Yeah.
And I think I pulled it off. Like, there's no actual gore, but the spirit of it is there.
Yeah.
It's more of a Nickelodeon thing. It's just people getting sloppy.
Oh, hell yeah.
Party's over.
That tweaking to make PG of something kind of reminds me of what they did for the movie From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
The way that movie got away with the ending vampire massacre scene in, like, the strip club was because the studio studio only was concerned about the color of the blood, so they turned it green instead of red and got away with an R rating.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a little thing that'll fix the problem.
I don't know how much you can say about this because you are in the industry, but when you look at decisions like that the censors make that are so ridiculous, do you ever just laugh at those choices and think, what the fuck are they doing?
Yeah, sometimes it's ridiculous. Sometimes it's really ridiculous. But most of the time in my career, it's actually been sort of a discussion, which is cool. So it's not, or rarely is it somebody just saying like, no, you absolutely can't do this.
Right.
Like sometimes if you provide context, or a lot of the times if you provide like an example from like another studio, like I don't remember when we did this, but I know there was one point when I was working on something and they were like, well, you can't do this. And then I was like, well, look at this whole Phineas and Ferb episode. And they were like, oh, okay. So yeah, ideally it's a negotiation and you just, and I'm genuinely not trying to like get away with like horrible things.
Sure, no, of course not.
I think that stuff, yeah, people just sneak in.
But it's also fun to be able to do that kind of stuff because kids need to understand what fear is and have time to analyze it and cope with it through stuff like this. And also, just to me personally, confusing people is probably the funniest thing you can do.
Yeah, I do love those prank videos and stuff where it's just confusing people.
Yeah, because I know a lot of humor in the recent past was more based in, like, shocking and offending people. And confusion is just way funnier. Like, getting that reaction of, what the hell is this, is just priceless to me. And it especially works with integrating horror into more comedic stuff because that tonal shift kind of throws people off so much, and it also makes it super enjoyable.
Yeah, I do love playing with tone and genre.
Yeah, it's fun. It keeps people on their toes. Do you remember Monster Vision with Joe Bob Briggs from back in the 90s?
I do.
A couple years ago, I got to interview him on an old podcast I had, and we were talking about censorship stuff in television, and even though he was on at like 2 in the morning on Saturday nights, the censors would make the stupidest decisions for the movies themselves. I remember there was an instance when he was showing Halloween 2, in which they just completely messed with the dialogue, so that one of the characters, the original line was, everything you say is either hell or fuck or damn, and they would just repeat it, so it would make it say, everything you say is either hell or damn. So in retaliation, he would have no problem just picking apart and making fun of the censors from TNT on air.
Did you notice how they edited that cussing scene? Jimmy says, every other word you say is either hell or damn.
Every other word you say is either hell or damn.
Why do I think there's an extra hell in there? And then Brad says, well, sorry, I guess I just up all the time.
Sorry. I guess I just up all the time.
Why didn't they make him say, sorry, I guess I just hell up all the time? Or sorry, I guess I just damn up all the time? See, I've figured it out. The TNT censors don't like cuss words that can be used as verbs.
And I just couldn't believe he got away with doing stuff like that, like publicly humiliating your censors. And he said the way he got away with it was because they just didn't pay attention to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess this whole roundabout thing, now that I know that they were really kind of hands-off with you a little bit, were there ever instances in Billy and Mandy that you kind of tried to take some pod shots in the writing of the show to go after the censors or the network and like make fun of them in a way?
Oh, definitely there are times that I did that. I can't remember any specifically right now.
But you know that you did it.
Yeah. And we did have some, I guess the ridiculous notes we would get were all just based on like, they would just look things up on the internet and, everything has some sort of connection to something nasty these days. So
oh, yeah.
There's an episode where, I don't even remember what the context is, but there's a giant snake in Billy's kitchen and his dad keeps trying to go in to get donuts or something. And there was a line that was just like how a giant snake stole his Bismarck or something. And we just got this long sort of angry email about how we shouldn't use the word Bismarck and we should know better. And I was like, what the fuck? That's a donut, bro. And after, 5 minutes of searching on the internet, we found something akin to Donkey Punch. And I was like, oh, okay. So I think we changed it to Cruller. But we didn't really get censored. It was just... I think overreacting to potential.
Right. I mean, innuendos have kind of gotten out of hand nowadays anyway. I could say anything like, I'm going to fold the laundry, and people would think I was making some kind of sexual reference.
Are you going to fold the laundry?
I mean, maybe once this is over. But, I don't know, man. I mean, I think that's also just because of how the internet has escalated everything as well. Like, I know there's the whole Rule 34 thing, which, like, I didn't even know about until recently, which I'm 26 and I make frequent internet content. So when I can't remember any of this stuff, that apparently makes me an old man.
Oh, thank God, because I can't either. So if it's a problem for you, I feel a little bit less bad.
We are so old.
Yeah.
So I wanted to jump back a little bit into Dead Meat from earlier, because that whole process and that whole production was just so much fun, straight up, because it was so involved with puppets and live action and all practical stuff. When you were developing the whole thing, did you expect it to be as labor-intensive as it turned out to be, or did you kind of underestimate it?
Like, everything hit worst case scenario, like everything, from the Kickstarter on, because the Kickstarter, the budget that I kind of projected for the whole thing was about 4 times what I got out of the Kickstarter. But I had this manager who was like, well, if that's too much, don't go for that. We'll just go for like a quarter of it and then do more later. And just that first Kickstarter was so stressful that I didn't really want to do more. I was like, I think I can work with this amount of money. It's just going to mean that I have to do more stuff myself, which I was absolutely willing to do and did do for a very long time. The real problem started coming when I started commissioning the puppets, because I just had years and years of people just taking money and running, basically. And that's when things started to kind of go off the rails. I do think I underestimated the total amount of work, but I also didn't expect to be doing it all myself.
Right. And I mean, as somebody who worked on the set, like, there were so many props and miniatures and puppets.
Yeah, it seems fairly tragic now.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that you put your heart and soul into it. Like, I mean, we fucked up your walls with paint and fake blood.
And I fucked them up with a hammer and a frying pan. And
yeah, so when we went over to your house, I'll say this. It was when I first met... The first time I met you was the day that you were like, I need people to come fuck up my house.
Yeah, the graffiti's actually all still there, and I've been meaning to ask, did you do the bug person?
I don't think I did that one. Maybe I did. I wrote the word poop above your door.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't know. I'll send you a picture. There's something that I think you did, but I'm not sure.
I also wrote, for a good time, call 911.
Oh, yeah. And then I put underneath it with what? Because nobody would have a phone, so nobody would tag that.
Exactly. That was just a day where we just basically... And not just the walls, people, either. It was like the kitchen cabinets, because they were mirror-based, on the windows, on the walls. It was just so much fun. But, I mean, you basically sacrificed your living space for this project.
I kind of sacrificed... My opinion was that at one point it came to the point where I was like, well, nothing matters but this now, and whatever I have to do to get this done. And then that, at a certain point, I calculated into the future, and I was like, if I keep going like this, like, A, this will probably kill me, and B, I will be very, very poor.
Right. I mean, life's goal is to die before you're broke, right?
Right.
Now, I know as time went on and things got more and more crazy, you did get some help, and actually someone did the puppets right, Jaden Liebren.
Yes.
Shout out to him. When he came through with those, and when other people started to help you out, was that just an immediate relief for you amongst everything?
Yeah, Jaden's stuff was fantastic. Most of the puppets came from different people. This story could go on forever, but I'll try to condense it. I went through like 2 or 3 sort of bigger puppet studios that just sort of crapped out. And then I started going out to just people that I found on eBay or the internet and just sort of doing them piecemeal just to see which... came back looking good, and then the plan was if I get like a really good one, then I'll, get them to do the mains. And the whole thing just ended up being so sort of convoluted that I'm not sure there's more than 2 or 3 puppets that ever came from the same person.
Yeah, I can tell that for some of them, because like I remember the one that I was operating a lot. It was a little mutant puppet, and I don't want to give away too much of the plot or anything.
Well, at this point, go ahead. I've dumped the script on the internet.
Oh, really? I didn't know you did that. Okay. Well, when the mutant gang first enters the bar, which was the scene we were shooting at the time, I was asked to puppeteer this one little paper mache looking mutant. I just fell in love with him. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Is it the one with the big teeth?
Yeah, the one with the big teeth.
Yeah.
I could tell. I was like, this one was definitely made by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, man, I mean, it was just such a fun experience. Like, I know that things obviously didn't go according to plan for you, but if there's anything you could take away from it, just know that everybody had a fantastic time working for you and trying to bring this thing to life.
No, I it's not a great thing, I think, in a lot of ways to invest so much time and effort and money into something and then just have it evaporate. But it's not like I didn't take away any. Like I had to learn so many things just to do what I did. So I've got a lot more skills than I used to, and I've got more friends than I used to. And
Yeah.
So yeah, not a total wash.
Not at all. I mean, there was just so much fun, inventive stuff in that script and on that set. I mean, one of my favorite things was our friend Kyle was playing a part where in the script, in order to keep the lights on in the bar, somebody had to be constantly pedaling a bicycle that connected to the circuits. So whenever the lights would start to go out, a character would come in and smash a breakaway bottle across his head.
Yeah. I don't remember what I was doing, but I remember laying down under the bike. Was I holding a light? I don't know what I was doing, but I just remember I couldn't see anything, and then just like pieces of the breakaway bottles kept falling in my mouth.
Yeah, you were. You had that little handheld square light because we had to act like all the lights were going out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you just got showered with sugar glass.
I'm still finding pieces of that around. I've got 3 bottles and a mug left. I really have to pee.
Oh, go ahead. We'll take a break.
Okay. Hey everybody, I'm gonna pee.
We'll be right back after this urination, folks.
I wish I had help keeping this toilet clean.
You do! Take this job and flush it, Santa, flush it chlorine clean. Santa Flush 4 months is what you want to help keep your toilet clean. It's like concentrating in a little tub, 7 cups of liquid chlorine.
Chlorine that cleans with every flush.
And lasts up to 4 months long. Put Santa Flush 4 months in your tank and the neighbors will hear the song. Take this job and flush it, Santa, flush it chlorine clean.
Returned.
So let me ask you this, since we've all been quarantined, even though you spent so much time, working on all this stuff for the project, like practically and model making, have you find yourself like tinkering around with it again since we've all been just shut inside?
Not much. Like I want to. I've been doing a lot of just watching videos of other people paint things online, sort of wishing that I had the wherewithal to do it, and I think I finally convinced myself. A couple of my friends from back in the Billy and Mandy days have gotten into painting Warhammer figures, which I guess a lot of people are doing right now.
Oh yeah, my friend David Razzie is super into that.
Yeah, mine's Phil Rinda, who used to work on Billy and Mandy.
It's very popular, I think. I would say it's almost like a modern, like, model car sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe, but I've decided I'm gonna get some dudes and paint them up.
Hell yeah, man, that'll be a great hobby for you. On the notion of watching tutorials and stuff, do you ever go back and watch old behind the scenes of 80s horror movies and stuff to look at how all the practical effects were done?
Oh yeah, like I don't know what it is, but I can only do like 1 or 2 things a day in 2020, so I'll like do my laundry and get a little bit of drawing done, and then I'll just watch like a shit ton of videos of people painting and film analysis and practical effects and all this stuff that I love, but I don't really know how it applies to my life right now.
Yeah.
Though I'd like it to.
It's nice to get an eclectic mix of everything, because I will just go through all of my Blu-rays of old horror movies, and I will just spend hours watching all the behind the scenes and making of segments that they provide, and just... that brings me so much joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people are going to want to chainsaw me through the face for bringing up Evil Dead 2 again, but the making of documentary of that movie is pretty much my Bible when it comes to all things practical effects. Like, the things they did to make that movie happen, like Mark Sjostrom and that crew, it's incredible because they all got a house together.
Yeah.
Like, right by where they were shooting the film, and they just worked there. I mean, it's kind of close to what you did with Dead Meat, just using the living space that they had to work.
Yeah, except they did it smarter by limiting it to 1 location in a very short time period.
Well, they also had 5 guys working on it.
Yeah, true.
So do you think that now that you have learned this stuff and had all these experiences and went through the ropes with all the labor of prop making and set design and stuff, if the money was right, would a live-action production be something you would like to try again in the future?
I don't honestly think that there's all that much difference, to me anyway, between live-action and animation. I mean, obviously I wouldn't be drawing much.
Right, except for, like, storyboards.
Well, and storyboards, like, I would do storyboards, actually, probably, depending on what the show was. But that's another thing that baffles me about modern times, speaking of watching videos about film analysis and stuff, is, like, how are, like, these insane multi-$100 million trilogies getting made without any sort of plan or a storyboard?
I have no idea, dude.
If you sat down over the course of like a year with like your best people and had them storyboard out your entire Star Wars trilogy, and everybody watched it, and then you would know what you were getting. Like, that just makes so much sense.
I love how you didn't even have to say the words Star Wars, and I already knew what you were talking about.
That's the easy one, but
But it's so clear, like they had no idea what they were doing, and it's not just them, obviously, it's other people, but like, I don't know about you, man, but like, if I was just handed this huge amount of money and said, here, make this franchise happen, I would be so meticulous with it. I wouldn't just wing it, you know?
Well, and even if I felt like I knew what I was doing, I think I would, and I didn't draw, and I'd never drawn anything in my life, I think I would still hire somebody to do that for me so that I could check my own work and make sure that I wasn't committing career suicide.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to have people in your life who can tell you when you're fucking up or not.
Sure, but just to have the ability to actually look at a template of what this thing's going to be just seems so obvious. I don't know.
So since you don't think there's a huge difference between how you would produce live action and animation, do you think that also stems from the fact that a lot of the stuff you enjoy in live action is very animated and cartoony?
Almost certainly. My favorite, Evil Dead, all my favorite live action stuff is semi-cartoon.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, obviously with like a lot of horror stuff for me, but a non-horror example would be like, I have this like strange fascination with the Ernest movies.
I haven't seen one of those since I was a kid.
I will go on a hill and say that Ernest Scared Stupid is like the best live action kids Halloween movie.
I'm putting it on my list.
Fun fact, I'm going to tell you this and then the poor suckers listening.
Yeah.
Did you know that the effects in that movie were done by the Chiodo brothers, the guys who made Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
No.
Yeah, the trolls and the effects, you can tell some of them are literally just the Killer Clowns masks repainted brown. It's kind of incredible.
It's on my list officially.
I asked them, because I got to go to Monsterpalooza a couple years ago, and I asked them about that because the Chiodo brothers were there, and I got to talk with them because Killer Clowns from Outer Space is one of my favorite movies, and those guys, the Chiodo brothers, are like my SFX heroes. Like, I love Rick Baker, Tom Savini, Mark Shostrom. Those three guys, though, from their work with Killer Clowns, Critters, Team America, they're just like heroes of mine because of their style. But I asked them, I'm like, everybody was asking stuff about like their craft or, their sense of humor. I was like, did you guys really sneak the Killer Clowns into Ernest Scared Stupid? And they were like, we have never gotten this question. I was like, yes! like, you always want to have that one. Like, I remember, you've seen the movie Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, right?
Yeah, it's been a while, though.
Everybody knows Garbage Day, that scene. Everybody knows that scene.
Garbage Day! Huh? No!
My favorite kill in that movie is not the Garbage Day scene. It's the scene where he stabs the guy with the white and red umbrella through the chest. I met that guy, Eric Freeman, at that convention, and apparently a bunch of people bring him like little garbage cans to sign. I went on Amazon and bought an identical looking white and red umbrella and brought it to him to sign, and he told me that was the first time anyone had ever done that, and I had that silent yes moment.
We were talking a little bit just about working with famous people and stuff earlier, and I think one of my absolute favorites was Malcolm McDowell, who did Baron von Ghoulish for the Billy and Mandy Christmas special.
Oh, yeah.
And I had put in a scene where he was brushing, or actually my friend had boarded a scene where he was brushing his teeth in the mirror. And I was like, ooh, I really want him to do Singing in the Rain. But I put it in that he was humming Singing in the Rain in the script, but I was really worried about it because sometimes celebrities will be like, I just get this all the time and I really don't want to do it.
Right.
And I didn't want to make him feel awkward. And then he got to the page and he was like, oh, it's Singing in the Rain. And he was so happy.
Oh, that's awesome.
And yeah, it was great. And then we had a nice little conversation.
It really does vary person to person.
Yeah, I would occasionally, when I worked on I Am Weasel, slip in, because Michael Dorn, Worf from Star Trek The Next Generation, was one of the main characters. I would occasionally put in, these things about his personal honor and stuff, and he would get like halfway through the line and be like, "Oh God, it's Worf." And I could never really tell if he was annoyed or not, but I kept doing it.
Yeah, well, if he never gave you any shit for it, then I don't think it was that big of a deal. I remember Bruce Campbell was talking about one time where he met William Shatner. And he said that, like, he purposely wanted to do that thing where he was like, I don't want to bring up Star Trek or anything because he always gets that to death. I want to make it something that's interesting. So he brought up T.J. Hooker to him.
I was going to say, is it T.J. Hooker?
It's T.J. Hooker because he's a big T.J. Hooker fan. And William Shatner was just overjoyed that somebody knew about that. And then I thought about it. I'm like, that would be the equivalent of me going to Bruce Campbell and talking to him about Congo with Tim Curry or something.
Yeah.
The first episode of this show, Michael and I talked about Congo extensively. That movie is a trip. Like, because you would think, like, a movie that has Bruce Campbell, Tim Curry, and a talking monkey would be the greatest thing ever made. But it's just not.
Honestly, all I really remember is the monkey going, pretty monkey.
Oh, man. There's just Tim Curry in that movie. He's so over the top the whole time. And I won't go too much into it because we did it in the first episode. But just if you ever get a chance to rewatch it, it is good for a laugh for sure.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since it came out, so.
I found it in a thrift store on VHS a couple of weeks ago for 50 cents, and I bought it.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, now I'm like, wow, that's what you have going for you. Proud owner of Congo on VHS. Put that one on the old dating profile.
One more off the bucket list.
Stop eating my sesame cake!
Man, I think that that's going to about wrap it up for us. Is there anything else you wanted to hit?
No, nothing I can think of. I mean, you're always welcome to have me back someday.
Hell yeah, man. You're welcome anytime. And look, do yourselves a favor. Go rewatch some Billy and Mandy.
Okay. I guess I will.
Yeah, get to it. Get out of here. Go.
Well, you go do your laundry then.
Yeah, I will. You get out of here.
All right. Miss you. Love you.
I love you too, man. Well, on that incredibly wholesome note, thank you guys so much for listening. I'll see you next time on Terribly Titled Talks with Dave Capdeville. Oh my god, the squids are attacking!
Get cartoons and